in the midst of a huge transformation where our peers, communities, and workplaces are all really melding into one. Welcome to Reimagining Company Culture. My name is Christina Giordano, and I'm a partnerships manager here at AllVoices, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. Today, I'm really excited to welcome our next guest, Jomana Elwenni. She is the Director of Human Resources at OrangeTheory, a personal favorite of mine. Jomana, how are you today?
I am great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to dive into our conversation. If you want to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, including your pronouns, and this could be anything, but what has recently brought you joy?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, my name is Jomana Elwenni. I am located in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. My pronouns are she, her. As Christina mentioned, I'm currently the Director of Human Resources for OrangeTheory Fitness Canada, championing national leadership and direction for our HR functions for about 115 locations across Canada. When I'm not being an HR superwoman, I tend to spend my time disrupting the HR industry, supporting women advancement in the fitness industry with WIFA, where I am a Canadian ambassador. WIFA is a global association focused on supporting women advancement and representation in the fitness industry. And what has recently brought me joy, this one's simple, and I think so many can relate to this, is just being able to see friends and family again.
Yeah.
It has been, at least for us up here in Canada, it's been a long year, and we're just coming out of our third lockdown, so it's been great to see people again.
Yes, absolutely. Gathering is definitely something that sparks joy, and I love the phrase that you talked about in terms of yourself being an HR superwoman. And really, next question: how do you think your personal journey has really led you to be that and be Director of HR at OrangeTheory in Canada?
Yeah, I was an athlete growing up, so there was definitely no hesitation for me to pivot my career into the fitness world. But I was really focused on finding a place that I could connect to, give me a place that I could show up as my original self, and an organization that can feed my thirst for growth and opportunity. And I'm so incredibly lucky that I found that all with OrangeTheory Fitness. But I truly believe that being an athlete and my sports background has really contributed to the growth I've had and how I became a director of HR so early on in my career. Sports taught me so much that is, beyond the courts. I played basketball. And it's really stuck with me and something I've taken throughout my entire career. And one thing that's always stuck with me that I learned throughout basketball was that you've never mastered a skill. You are never an expert. You continuously need to practice and educate yourself and put your time into bettering your skill set and yourself. And that's me. I've always been hungry for growth, bettering myself in all aspects of my career, whether it's HR or a hobby. So I'm always learning, developing, and essentially bettering myself. And it's opened up so many doors for me during my career. And I really, truly believe it's all interconnected.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that mentality is so interconnected. And I think physical health is something that's super related to OrangeTheory Fitness. And I feel like a lot of the reason why people come to join the team, or it's just something close to their heart. Another conversation that has been just like really widespread is just supporting employees' mental health as well, in addition to the physical. How have you really thought about supporting the team over this past year in both regards?
Yeah, this is a great question, and especially for our organization, because we know that many of our employees have a really good grasp of their physical health. It's a reason why they're connected to us, they work for us, and we incorporate it into our day-to-day and our culture. But when the pandemic first started, and we did a pulse survey and a check-in on our team to see how they were doing, we called it kind of the mental health check-in. We recognized that a lot of our team members remained physically active during COVID and the lockdown, which was great. We identified that they weren't really focusing on the other areas of their health, whether it was mental, social, financial, emotional, psychological health. And working out and staying active is an outlet for many in our industry. And I can speak to this myself. Going for a workout is that 1 hour reset recharge for me that takes care of my mental health. That's what I've always focused on. But we tend to forget about the other aspects of health that also need to be focused on. And wellness goes beyond physical health. And since that survey, we've been placing a huge focus on educating our employees on the different areas of health and wellness. We first started by educating our leadership team on mental health, the different areas of health that they can support their staff in, and how they could do so. We then focused on educating our entire organization on with monthly communications on different topics of health. So, you know, 1 month we talk about mental, emotional, psychological, financial, physical, things like that. And we're continuously putting it in front of them to educate them, remind them, and then also with that, providing them the resources to support them, whether it's in-house resources, we have our external resources. We want to try to keep it top of mind and continuously educate them to do so. You know, this is something we plan to do indefinitely. As we've reopened a lot of our studios right now, you know, our next communication is about, you know, stress returning to, you know, dealing with your anxiety and stress returning to work. We recognize it's not an easy transition for most people. So it's just an ongoing commitment that I think we're going to do to support our staff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so important, and really meeting folks where they are, and giving them those resources and time and support from the company and managers is great, and I think important to the employee experience. I know you mentioned pulse surveys and just check-ins as well with employees. How are you thinking about for your corporate folks, just the hybrid model, how you're collecting that employee engagement strategy?
Yeah, I don't think our employee engagement strategy is going to be different, but execute these is really going to shift. You know, we have to be really more intentional about how we're executing these strategies, keep our employees engaged and connected, but also recognizing that one size fits all no longer works for us, because everyone has a different structure now with our hybrid. You know, some people might be in the office more, some people might be at home more. So just connect to everyone. We are going to focus on keeping our staff connected digitally, so incorporating technology to do those check-ins, to have those meetings, and giving them the resources to do so. You know, our engagement strategy pre-COVID was focused on fostering a social connection with our team. We connection, events, interaction, and with loneliness obviously creeping up on everyone over the last year with social isolation, we've been really intentional about trying to keep that in our culture through digital formats. You know, we have our virtual happy hours still, or all our virtual all hands on deck meetings, you know, and some of our staff still continue their traditions of coffee dates and team workouts with each other, just great to see. And then, you know, flexibility is another one of our strategies for engagement. So now we're just thinking about how to continue to support that in a remote work that keeps our staff engaged and productive. But overall, we're really rethinking how our team connects, collaborates, and works. And a huge factor with working from home is burnout. You know, every organization has heard it over the last year. Their people are burnt out from working from home. And it's so easy to leave an office and disconnect and know that once you leave for the day, when your laptop is in the other room or on your kitchen table, it's so hard to set boundaries. So we're also going to be focused on supporting our employees on setting clear boundaries while working from home to avoid burnout. So we are considering implementing digital tools to support them with that as well. And then these tools are really going to give us an insight into efficiency and the productivity of our teams in a hybrid environment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with technology, there are so many options out there, and it sounds like you're testing and thinking about really dynamic strategies too. And, you know, another part of employee engagement, in addition to peers and just leadership as well, is your manager. And I would love to ask from your opinion as well as a leader at the company, how have you seen the role of managers and really people leaders change as well?
Anyone overseeing people in any capacity, directly or indirectly, has had a major change in their role. You know, we can all agree to that. We can all acknowledge it. How we lead people has forever changed. And with that, the skill set required of our people leaders is so different. And we recognize that. We recognize there's going to be a skill gap between our current people right now that are leading our employees and what is required of them to be successful in their roles today and in the future with the direction of the organization and where we're going. We know that if we don't address this with our current team, we are going to fall short of our, you know, digital aspirations. Our team is going to struggle in their roles. So, you know, we've launched over the last year what we call a digital efficiency project that has allowed us to roll out a digital roadmap to our organization and direction to our team. It introduces our technology, you know, the technology we're going to utilize to support them. We focus on training them to be efficient with these technologies, how to incorporate in day to day. We're still in the phase of implementing and training them. I actually just got off a call auditing one of our employees and making sure they're up to speed and what further training they need. But we're really focused right now on closing that skill gap with our team, shaping their future roles, setting up the infrastructure, and just, reskilling them to be successful.
Absolutely. I think that word is so important in terms of reskilling and understanding there are different kind of like empathy, vulnerability, like all of these new things that managers are kind of leaning into now more so.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of jump back a little bit in terms of the big picture around Orange Theory too, in terms of how you would describe just the company culture overall with your team and your mission and just what you're focused on for folks who want to like peek behind the curtain and see like, what is it like to work at Orange Theory Fitness?
I love answering this question during interviews because I truly love our company culture. I love where I work. I love what we've created here. I remember pre-COVID, like funny story, I had an interview arrive at our office. I was interviewing a candidate. He arrived early, just like every good candidate does. He was greeted at the door by one of our team members, asked to use the washroom while he waited. And during that time of about brief 5 to 10 minutes, he was exposed to our office culture and our team. And, interacted, saw a little bit of our office, saw, what was going on, interacted with some of our team members. And when I asked him during the interview, why Orange Theory Fitness? He told me that the brand, led him to apply and brought him through the door, but his brief interaction and experience with our team, right before the interview sold him on why he wanted to work for us. And also because he was offered a popsicle at the door, but it's really stuck with me ever since. And it really speaks to the impact your culture has, not just on your current employees, but also on, those that are considering working for you and that might be potential candidates down the road. So I love to describe our culture as, collaborative. You are part of more team meetings than one-on-one meetings with Orange Theory. We are very cross-functional and our team works strongly together. No job is a behind-the-scenes jobs or independent. We don't really ask that question in interviews because that's not the environment you're stepping into. Sure. Corporate office is also structured to support collaboration and teamwork. We have multiple boardrooms, a lounge, open office concepts, intercommunication systems, and more to really breed that collaboration within our team. I also like to describe it as challenging. We provide our employees with so much opportunity to grow. We encourage them to tap into their full potential, utilize their skill set, and explore and expose them to a lot that allows them to grow in their roles. I can confidently say that in the short 5.5 years that I've been with OTF, I have been exposed to more than I anticipated to get my entire HR career. I can't believe what I've been able to do with them and the opportunities they've given me to grow in such a short period of time. Another word that I like to describe is transparent. Our executive team is very transparent with our team about where we are going, where we are, what needs to be done. And especially over the last year, they amplified the transparency, which was so crucial in keeping our staff informed, engaged, and connected, and just, less worried. So, we are a very, very transparent company. And then, other words, fast-paced. We are always moving. We are a very innovative company, which, tends to work against us sometimes, but it just keeps us on our toes. We're very supportive, flexible, inclusive, friendly, and fun. We work hard, but man, do we play hard. So it's a great culture that we've built here.
Yes, it sounds like you're really passionate about it, and those are all super positive words. And I feel like with the interviewer story or the interviewee story, just like getting through the door is one thing, and like wanting to work at a company, knowing the brand reputation, but like it's really the employer brand and also the folks around you that really make someone want to stay and just like work at the company as well. It's about the people, and a lot of folks right now are, in terms of their experience, are, in addition to having their full-time jobs, are caretakers, whether they're working parents or they're taking care of like elderly family members in general. And it's a big conversation happening right now with companies. How are you really supporting caretakers at Orange Theory Fitness or OTF?
Our strategy doesn't change because we've always been very supportive of our caretakers. We support them by, first and foremost, offering flexible scheduling. No one works the same schedule in our office. It works for each individual, whether it's for pickups, drop-offs, school commitments, after school, things like that. Want to catch a soccer game, your kid's soccer game. We're flexible. Our employees create their own schedules. They can work from home if needed. Also, we welcome office babies. Office babies, they are no strangers to our office. I was just in the office on Monday. One of our employees brought in their babies. So we have a culture that's very empathetic towards the challenges and responsibilities caretakers face, and we work towards supporting them in and out of the office.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Flexible scheduling and also welcoming all of the young Orange Theory Fitness team members into the office too. One of the words that you described, just the company culture is inclusive, which I think is really important and we can't take for granted as well. And it's a really intentional strategy to make a workplace inclusive. Can you tell us a little bit about Orange Theory's just like diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy, and specifically how you responded to the anti-racism movement we saw in corporate social justice last year as well?
Yeah, I think just like any organization, it was a wake-up call for us as well. As much as you think you are doing, we recognize that we did fall short in some areas. So Orange Theory over the last year really committed to encouraging, facilitating, and upholding an environment that's centered on diversity, equity, and inclusion across every facet of our brand. We also committed to working on creating a sustainable culture that also supports a healthy space for learning and growing about diversity, equity, and inclusion, empowering every employee, our franchisees, and our communities to do so. So over the last year, we focused on a couple of things. One, we created a diversity, equity, and inclusion council and a women's leadership council. So the Diversity Council exists to provide insight, guidance, and support to our organization as a means of incorporating, DE&I across all segments of the company. So it consists of employees, coaches, franchise owners, corporate executives. So we've incorporated a different variety of people to hear all aspects. With that as well, we've also implemented talent acquisition and employee growth retention strategies with diversity, equity, and inclusion. We've conducted training on implicit bias and sharing best practices with our team. To date, on the talent acquisition front, we've conducted 2 DEI training sessions for our people managers. And those just focused on 2 important topics, so inclusive hiring and expanding your network. The inclusive hiring addressed kind of the myth of talent scarcity, addressing tone deaf mistakes, the power to include or exclude, the hiring cycle, things like that, just to give our hiring managers a little bit more background on it. Sure. We also engaged a partner, Yardstick Management, to help us advance our commitment to DEI by having honest conversations about what that means to us, where our gaps are, and how we can take action. We also educate our team members on diversity, equity, and inclusion every chance that we get. Just last month, we had our annual Orange Theory Fitness Summit, and our keynote speaker was Salma Shelbaya, who spoke about fostering an inclusive mindset and the power of promoting a more life, which is our motto at Orange Theory, for all. So that's just a little piece of what we've done over the last year and our ongoing commitment that, we're going to continue to work on indefinitely for, to members, employees, and our community.
So it sounds like you're doing a lot in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion and not thinking of it as just a silo or a box to say, checking it, we're done. It's more in terms of recruiting, talent, retention, also events and programming, which is really important. So baking it into the process, I think we've heard that's something that a lot of folks are doing, which is great. Another piece that I wanted to kind of ask you about was employee trust and listening to. How do you really see a culture of trust and listening manifesting in your organization? Why is it important?
It is so important. We place a lot of trust in our employees and having ownership in their work and the individual power to improve results. We do not micromanage, and we say that very loud and clearly at Orange Theory.
Love it.
In just an interview this morning, one of our directors did tell a candidate that if you need to be micromanaged, this might not be an opportunity for you, because we place a lot of trust and responsibility in our employees to take power of their roles and departments. We will absolutely be there to support them, guide them, and give them the tools they need to be successful. But ultimately, where they go in their role in their departments is in their hands, and where they take it. As a startup, we foster this culture to really help us grow. So each individual we've hired on over the last 5 years, we're basically into brand new positions with Orange Theory. And they shaped it and developed it and helped us develop what it is today. I also spoke to our culture earlier and how we are transparent, which allows us to build a culture of trust with employees. We also focus on listening to them. We continuously ask for feedback and we support employees in expressing their opinion. And in just little ways, we always ask our employees, hey, Jomana, what do you think about this? Hey, do you have more to add? Hey, Jomana, do you see anything wrong with this? That helps us get feedback from our team, but also create a culture that allows them to feel like they could speak up. But then we also reward them for doing so and acknowledge that, we are taking this into consideration, which we do. Whether it's, thanks for sharing that, let's take a look into that. That's a great perspective. We didn't thanks for sharing that. We never considered that. These behaviors really show your employees that you're listening and take what they have to say into consideration, which continues to foster that culture of listening. At Orange Theory, we also place a huge focus on adapting to everyone's working styles. We're a huge fan of DISC at Orange Theory Fitness, and we have it incorporated into our culture. If you're not familiar with DISC, it's a Wiley brand behavior assessment tool that measures the dimensions of your personality and helps you understand how you work and what it's like to work for you. And that was a really interesting thing to incorporate in our culture for our team, because it really was a wake-up call on understanding how you might come across to different personalities and how you could better work with others. Since we've implemented that, we have seen a huge shift in how our team works together. We've seen less bumping of heads, less conflict. That would naturally just come up with personality conflicts, but it helped them understand, how do they work? How do they communicate? And then we focus on educating them that, there's different styles around them and you need to adapt accordingly to be better communicators, listeners, and have a better working relationship. So that was also really critical to our culture as well.
Yeah, just like when we were in school, there's different learning styles and there's different working styles as well.
Yeah.
We need to learn how to work with folks and just again, meeting people where they are, because we're all at different points of just what works and what doesn't, and just being collaborative too, going back to one of the words that you used to describe the company culture at Orange Theory as well. I also wanted to ask from more of an industry perspective too, are you seeing any trends that you really think individuals or organizations need to hone in on to be successful in the future?
This is an interesting question, because I think a lot of leaders, organizations, and professionals, myself, we ask that, what is the trend that I need to focus on? What is going to be the huge factor, pivotal trend for HR? And I've realized that I don't think there's one trend exactly that we need to be aware of at this point. It is about redefining HR entirely and looking at the bigger picture. The last year's really changed the world and how we work. And as such, it's pushing us to rethink many, if not all, of our HR practices and adapt for the future. We, as HR leaders and organizations, really need to look ahead and prepare for this post-COVID world, which is primarily digital, and ask ourselves, have you started looking at how you recruit, onboard, performance manage, engage, retain? Have you already considered of whether or not that's going to work for you in today's world and in the future? So really looking at every aspect of your HR strategy and your functions. Have you adapted your policies and procedures to support that? Have you trained your leaders? Have you started the discussions with your employees, And if not, what are you waiting for? Because the future of work is already here. I know we're talking about, the hybrid working, we're already doing that. The digital aspect, we're already doing that. It's time we really catch up. And we really need to think about every aspect of HR and, how are we doing that? With that, we also need to look at our organizational structure, and it really needs to evolve. I'm sure, second to burnout, the biggest complaint that we've seen from organizations over the last year, including ours, is that those missed aha moments created by spontaneous interactions in the office are gone in a remote world. Those in-office water cooler chats, those hallway interactions are really breeding grounds for creativity and collaboration and innovation throughout our team. And companies need to realize that that's one part of your culture, two, that really contributes to your team's and organizational success. So how do you continue to breed that in a digital world, and utilize the tools to do so? Just like what I described at Orange Theory or culture is, collaborative, transparent, challenging, all that. We have to break down each of these and identify how we can still foster that through a digital or hybrid world. It isn't going to foster itself, and it really needs to be intentional. And we learned that. We thought at the beginning of working remotely a year ago that, it's part of our culture. It's just going to continue on, but it really needs to be intentional, and you need to give them the resources to do so. So those would kind of be the two things I would focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially what I think you say is rethinking about just the design of workplaces, and also all of the, you mentioned a ton of different like big questions that HR folks need to keep in mind as well. And then you're right, culture just doesn't happen. It is fostered, it is cultivated, and it's something that is super dynamic, and it's part of everyone's responsibility. And just, I think that's also an important part as well. Going back to your earlier point too, being an HR superwoman, if you are talking to like your younger self and your kind of first or second job out in the field, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to Jomana?
This one, so simple. And I feel like I'm going to sound like a broken record because I really say this over and over again, especially to young HR professionals or, graduates that I mentor. I wish I knew the power of networking and connection early on in my career when I started, or even when I was a fresh grad. I cannot tell you how many opportunities I had come my way over the last year, simply because I stepped out of my comfort zone and I networked and I spoke to people and I made connections that, came back years later and opened up doors that I never thought would. And I think a lot of people tend to think that connecting and networking is about getting something right off the bat. You go to a networking event and you meet someone, and then, they think that it's going to happen there, that they're going to get a job opportunity. They're going to have, an interview, or they're going to refer them. It doesn't work that way. It really comes back down the road and open up doors for you. And it's just, I've seen the work of that especially over the last year, at a time where I thought nothing would really happen. But I had so many incredible opportunities come my way, just because I put myself out there. I didn't say no. I spoke to people. I made connections. And that was really hard for me as an introvert, which a lot of people find hard to believe that I'm an introvert, but I am.
I know that.
But it really did shape my career for me. So if there's anything I can say to my, that's what I wish I knew when I was younger. And if that's what I can give to young professionals, is just the power of networking, and connection. Do not underestimate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you mentioned in terms of getting something out of it is definitely like an old school, like transactional way of looking at it, but it's really about connecting. And I was talking to someone the other day who is a super connector, and she was just like, it's about creating those concentric circles in your life and leading with, how can I help you? And I just think that made me think of what you said. So I think that's great advice. I know our conversation ranged from kind of your personal journey into HR and just Orange Theory Fitness in general, and how you've kind of shifted strategies and how you keep employees engaged, and then just general trends you're seeing in the industry at large. But is there anything that I either didn't ask you, or a key takeaway that you wanted to reemphasize for our folks who are listening before we close out our conversation for this afternoon?
Yeah, I think the key takeaway from our conversation today that I really want to leave folks with is redefining HR entirely. Please, if you haven't already, take a look at your HR operations, your entire structure, your strategy, and think about what needs to be reshaped to support future work and the direction your organization is going to. I mentioned the questions they need to ask themselves. Go back to that and think about that, because it's changing, and it's changing really fast. So you really need to consider all aspects of HR and redefine how you move forward.
Absolutely, redefine how you move forward. I love it. That's a good call to action. It was so great speaking with you, Jomana. Thank you so much for taking the time this afternoon, and it's the first time we're meeting, so it was so nice to meet you as well.
Yes, you as well. Thank you so much for having me. This is great.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a reminder, at AllVoices, we believe in the empowerment of everyone to speak up at an organization, and thanks to requirement in order for the company to succeed. Have a good rest of your afternoon, everyone.